movies. I'm too lazy and uninspired to write a long intro, so let's just get to it. 3 Hong Kong policemen do their best to stop a notorious gang of bank robbers before things get even worse. Interpersonal relations come under stress as each cop, with their own morals, tries to deal with the increasing danger the criminals place on them and innocents. Invisible Target is a typical Hong Kong crime movie where cops and criminals, and those in between, play a cat-and-mouse game of wits and violence, much in the vein of Infernal Affairs, Rumble in the Bronx and others. Being so similar to all these other movies, it fell a bit flat for me. Granted, I have watched a lot of movies, and among those I had my Hong Kong cinema period where I watched Asian movies all day. With that, I found this to be quite repetitive and, as said, too similar to these other movies. It's competently made, compelling but a wee bit too long near the end, and for people who haven't seen a lot of these, it's a good recommendation. Although I would suggest watching the Infernal Affairs trilogy first. They didn't lazily remake that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio as The Departed for no reason. Check that. Russ Meyer was a very prolific smut movie maker that was best known for his usage of extremely busty vixens. Movies like Faster Pussycat, Kill, 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 Vixen and Beyond the Valley of the Dolls are iconic cult movies with a lot of big cleavage and feisty ladies. Russ Meyer, in my opinion, can be considered as a type of Benny Hill of movies. In Wild Gals of the Naked West, we visit a strange western town with cowboys, comedians and a whole lot of seductive women with large breasts. Most of the movie is made with extreme close-ups, giving this a cheap feel, which is fine when we're glaring at some glorious bosoms, but a bit weird when looking at someone, and I say someone cause we only see his hands, pouring in champagne over and over again. Wild Gals of the Naked West is a schlock slapstick movie with sexy stuff and a happy-go-lucky, yay boobies kind of vibe. It's a really simple movie with some humoristic moments, but on top of everything, this is cult to the T. If you like grindhouse cult and or boobies, check this out. Check that. Another Russ Meyer movie that trades a certain percentage of boobies with some blaxploitation. In Black Snake, an evil woman, also known as Duchess of Doom, hoys a violent and racial land enslave owner on a 19th century Caribbean island. She abuses her black slaves as one would expect by using her whip, the Black Snake. Things start going wrong, however, when she forces a young man to join her slaves who doesn't leave it at that and starts a revolt. Black Snake holds no punches in its depiction of slavery and racism, but if you have seen one, you have seen them all. The level of sexiness is a bit low in this movie, despite the main actress Anushka Hempel being quite the eye candy. Those who enjoy some masculinity can also be delighted with David Warbeck and the many muscle men walking around. Overall, Black Snake is a B-movie that knows what it is and does it competently enough for the genre. You won't see anything new or special, but it will linger a little bit once you end it. If you like Ilsa Trilogy, Black Snake, Moan or others of this ilk, be sure to put it on your list. Check that. Reflections in a Golden Eye is a slow and prodding movie about a sexually repressed major played by the iconic Marlon Brando, who is in an unhappy marriage with a cheating and psychologically abusive wife played by the one and only Elizabeth Taylor. Things get a wee bit spicy when a young male soldier inserts himself into an already volatile relationship. Reflections is a very well-made emotional drama about someone who hasn't come out of the closet yet, fully or half, who gets feelings for another man that is his subordinate while in a difficult relationship. It's a story of 3 people with their own problems. This movie is pure drama, not with constant shouting but a slow walk on the edge of a knife. What happens is something you will need to experience yourself, but the pacing might prove problematic for some people. Stick with it though, as the acting of Taylor, Brando and Robert Forster keep you watching. This movie is a classic, a not well-known classic, and quite frankly, a must-see. Smash that. An overly mushy and lovey-dovey couple decides to have a romantic vacation on an inhabited island. Between all their smoochies and playful banter, They're frolicking and giggling. Something happens. Something weird. Normal people would quickly think someone is on the island, but these two are so up each other's ass that they don't even blink an eye at first, until someone actually comes on the island. But are they the culprits of what is happening? Uninhabited is a simple horror movie that only starts after half of the film is already done, and even then it doesn't excite or is creative. It's simple in its filming, script and acting, and often feels like a low-budget indie movie with high aspirations. The movie could have been a whole lot better if there was actually more going on in the island, and if it wasn't sugary love nonsense for half the time. Uninhabited is just too basic to be recommended. Drop that. A movie with Method Man and Edward Furlong called The Mortician should already tell you enough to know if this movie will be worth the watch. For those who don't know why, watch more movies. The movie is portrayed as something completely different in some places on the net, and even I went in blind expecting some kind of serial killer mortician at work, like Dexter, but black and rappy. Alas, we have the story of a weird, introverted mortician who stumbles upon a body, as they do, and gets confronted with a boy who was witness to the murder of that body. Surrounded by gangs and violent men who constantly harass him. Needless to say, one of the people in those gangs is responsible for the murder and is hunting the kid who saw it. The Mortician is a movie that tries hard but fails at being a compelling and interesting movie. Edward Furlong brings his best in the 3 minutes that you see him, and Method Man tries to act enough not to be completely annoying. That's about all that can be said about this movie, really. Sorry if this recommendation disappoints you, but that's about the same thing you'll get from the movie that is The Mortician. Drop that. Thirst is a 79 horror movie where an attractive young woman, Katie Davis, gets kidnapped by some cult members who later reveal that she is a descendant of the infamous serial killer and wannabe vampire Elizabeth Bathory. The cult worships Bathory and her vampiric powers and have set up quite the organization to harvest blood from others and force feed it to Katie in order to get her on their side. What follows is a psychological game played by the cult in order for her to become something more. Will she succumb or will she escape? I liked Thirst a lot. It's a classic late 70s film and a sign of the times, adding a sort of satanic feel to the images and story. You can follow the slow descent into madness that the main character has to endure, and it leaves it open, at least for some time, whether or not the paranormal aspects of the cult are real or psychological. Sets look a bit Hammer-esque at times, but that adds more to the flair of the movie in my opinion. Thirst is effective in what it wants to do, and at the end, it left me thirsty for more. Smash that. Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao. Bella Ciao Ciao Ciao. We all know the song by now. We all know the series. I'm quite sure everyone has already seen the movie, but this video is for new generations. You know, the generations who will rise from the ashes of what was once the great Western society and will relive the movies and series that were created during its downfall. Casa de Papel, aka Money Heist, brings us a group of very charismatic criminals who join a person called El Professor to perform one of the most daring bank heists in Spanish and worldwide history. Their attempt to rob the National Reserve blank and get out with all the gold that is in there. Over the course of 3 seasons, chopped up into many sub-seasons to make things more convoluted and annoying, we follow this band of Dali mask-wearing crooks in a plan that's even more elaborate than Michael Scofield's one from Prison Break. It's dramatic, it's cool, it's the underdog versus the establishment. It has pretty people, charismatic people, a diverse group without stomping it into your face wearing cool clothes and guns. Lots of guns. The concept to this series, much like Squid Game with its similar uniforms, was just a recipe for success. Like many Spanish series I've seen, however, and like subsequent seasons of Prison Break for example, it starts to get a wee bit convoluted the more time passes. They bring in stuff that's so implausible it makes the whole plan seem to be ridiculous. Add in love triangles like the Spanish seem to like to do, and have some major plot holes in the science and story in later seasons that brings down the show a little bit, but you can't be anything but compelled at what these people are trying to achieve. Cause they are not mere criminals, they are conscientious revolutionaries trying to bring down the elite while wearing masks. Something we have seen in V for Vendetta, and something which brings us to the point where these masks appear in protests across the world. Reality imitating fiction. Bella Ciao. A fight against fascism and the establishment. Stealing from the rich. Robin Hood. It just works. Casa de Papel often puts style over substance, but it does so in the best way. I rolled my eyes many times in the third season, but after seeing the finale all I could do was cheer. Not so happy about them doing a prequel spin-off though, cause that's just a recipe for disaster. If you like V for Vendetta, Prison Break and Payday mixed together, just watch this. Smash that. Exam is a one-room movie where a group of people go into a company for a job application. They are greeted by a man and placed in a closed room, handed a paper and are asked a question. Then the door closes. The rules: don't talk to the security guard or the cameras, and don't soil their paper. 6 people, 3 women, 3 men are stuck for an hour, and they are all competitive. With no clear rules set, you can make sure that certain stuff will happen. Needless to say that tensions will rise, so the movie is kind of predictable, but it has enough escape room surprises that it doesn't bore. There's also some backstory added in later in the movie that didn't really need to be there, but hey, they did it anyway and it works. Kinda. In the end, Exam is a competent light psychological movie about what happens when a group of people is put in a room with no rules and something important to win. Survival of the fittest, baby. Good for a little more than an hour of entertainment. Check it out. Check that. 127 Hours is the real-life story of an adventurous hiker and biker played by James Franco, who is doing his daredevil things in the Rocky Mountains. He's hip, he's exciting, he's careless, he's extroverted, finds some girls and convinces them to drop into a chasm only to land in a subterranean lake God knows how many meters later. He is so sporty and popular. And then, he falls in a crevice and has a large boulder jam his arm between a rock and a hard place. And there he is, stuck, unable to get out. No soul near him and no one knows where he is. What follows is his ordeal, which, spoilers, lasted 127 hours as he tries to get out and survive his predicament. I won't spoil what happens, even though most of you most likely already know, but let's just say that the movie is a testament of human survival, acceptance of life and death, and more so, the power of hope. Where the movie to me was quite annoying in the beginning, having this cocky guy risking life and limb for cheap thrills, it became all the more compelling when he got into his predicament. Being stuck doesn't make for a compelling movie, one would think, but there you will be wrong. Although there are a few moments where he is hallucinating, having a daydream or a flashback, most of the film is him in the same place, trying to get out. 127 Hours is an amazing story of survival and the human spirit, and kinda feels like a more outdoorsy version of Into the Wild. Definitely check it out. Smash that. Movies. I'm too lazy and uninspired to write a long outro, so let's just get it over with.